Okay folks, here's the first part of the video tutorial for this week's homework, the walk cycle. I'm going to do this in two parts so that it doesn't last an hour. The second part will be sort of everything filled in, including the background and whatnot. But here we will start just by going over what we did in class briefly. Make sure that you have your properties inspector open. Here I have my prefabricated walk cycle here. It's only half the walk cycle. It's only one step out of two. It's only the back, darker, shaded in leg, moving from the back and stepping forward. You're going to have to create your own second step. Let's erase all layers. Doesn't want to erase, so yeah. I guess it only wants to erase one layer at a time. Okay, so to begin, let's make our leg. Now, I'm going to go ahead and make each part of the leg, turning it into a symbol as I go. Not even going to bother naming it, but each part of the leg I'm just going to, well, I guess I'll make them all similar colors. Here's the top half of the leg, the thigh. Let's select it and convert it to symbol before we do anything else. Then I'm going to make myself an oval. That is the knee. Here's the knee. The letter B will give me my selection tool. Convert to symbol. Now we have our parts. We need a foot. Make the foot a slightly different color. The foot should be a nice pinkish red color. I'm going to round this foot. If you have a full keyboard, you can convert to symbol, I think, by pressing F5. Or you can go up into the menu. Oh, F8. F8 is the one. Go up into the menu, convert to symbol. Okay. I want to make a toe, or just like the tip of a shoe or something. You want a little additional symbol at the front edge of your foot in order to give a little bit more operability here to that final bone. Okay. So for those of you who were not in class, we're using the bone tool to give ourselves a kind of bone structure for this leg, and I'm advising people to do it to do each leg separately in order to ease things up, because you can draw the entire body and create a skeletal structure with the bone tool that's all connected, but it's much harder to move. And so just a reminder, when you start using your bone tool, which is in my version available with the letter X on the keyboard, but in your version I believe it's the letter M. But here is what it looks like. Bone tool, bind tool is the thing that you can use to adjust the vector points that are associated with a particular bone when you're drawing the bone in the merge drawing or like vector drawing mode. But when you're using symbols and connecting them up, you don't have access to the bind tool. So anyway, with the bone tool, remember when you're connecting symbols, you can only put one bone per symbol. And as we found out in class, it's helpful to start to place a bone at the top of the thigh, like where it would hinge at the hip. Think about where the actual joints are in the body, and you're not always going to be literal with that, but it's a good guideline. Now the shin for me is weird. I think I like to put the shin bone near the top, and then I go to the ankle. You can play around with this, and you can always delete bones. You can move and delete bones. I want to replace that bone. As long as there's no actual animation of the pose, you'll have to remove all poses from your, from your layer. Notice that all of my symbols were moved to this layer called an armature layer automatically when I started drawing bones. You can start connecting symbols even on different layers with the bone tool, and they'll still all group down to, okay, cool. We're still recording. I just had to double check the recording process. They'll still group into this one armature layer. I'm going to save my project as something different. Walk, let's say 2. It's good to save multiple copies of your file, just as a general rule, so that you can go back to an earlier state even if you save over something. Now, if you want to just change the size or the position of the whole construct, of the whole boned object, you can use the free transform tool to shrink it down or rotate it or something. But for moving your pose, you're actually going to just use your select tool. Okay, and I'm starting at frame 1. Once you have your leg made, you can either start animating right away, or you can actually duplicate your leg. And in your version of Flash, you have the option to actually duplicate the layer, which is super handy. I don't have that option, so what I'm going to do, what am I going to do? I guess I'm going to try to select this one layer, copy the pose, create a new layer, and let's see if I can paste this pose. Paste, can't paste. So what am I going to do? Copy, paste. Nope. Let's see if we can do this way. Copy, paste. There we go. Did it go on the same layer? Let's see. Where did we go? Where are you, my friend? Must be here. No? Oh, look at that. It created a new armature layer for me. So let's click this whole guy. For you, it's much easier. You can just duplicate your layer. I'm going to move him next to my other leg, and just to distinguish them, let's go back to my select tool so I can actually move the joint. I'm actually going to recolor my back leg. No, I want to be in this. If I click on the actual keyframe, I select everything, all the objects that are in that keyframe, in that layer. Let's see. I guess I cannot recolor so easily. I'm going to change the brightness. Let's see what I'm affecting. Only that one object. Okay, whatever. You might have to select each object individually. Oh, wait a minute. So it did select them all. Okay. So I have this leg that's a little darker to suggest like the leg in shadow or the leg behind the other leg. And here I have my beginning. This leg isn't exactly where I want it to be. Remember that if you're getting this kind of thing, you're going to want to click on the bones and constrain rotation, and you can play with that rotation with the min and the max of the rotation. But you can just start off by going with whatever the standard limitation is, and it's going to help a whole lot to keep things together. Oop. Okay, so we'll start out with this. Let's start out with the leg. You know, we can't quite get it all the way to the ground. Oh, let's also do this. Ground plane. That's what we want. Let's create a new layer. Oops. Put it at the bottom here and just draw a simple line across the area. And this will be our guide. We don't even have to keep this in there. This will be our guide for now. We want to stay on this ground plane throughout the animation. And we'll just we'll lock everything like that. That isn't the armature that we're adjusting, just to save ourselves a little bit of a hassle. I'm saving again, and now if I want to get this leg on the ground, it's hard to, you know, really move everything. Oops, did I just do something crazy? It might have. But you can move the parts of your armature object independently with the free transform tool. Or when you're in the select tool by holding down option, you can move them around. And you can see that the bone still stays connected, but everything can shift in little ways. I don't know if I want to do that exactly. Okay. So now I'm going to work on my walk cycle. Now if you want, usually your anchor point, your origin point is stuck in that position. But if you want to move things around, you can actually enable X and or Y translation. And you only have to do that for a short amount of time. I'm actually going to enable Y translation, disable rotation. And then I can either click and drag it now, or I can use let's see, can I use the arrow keys? Well, the arrow keys can always move the bone, but if I want that Y translation, you see how those arrows appear? I'm actually let's see, just move it to be where I want it. I'm going to move it a little further down so that I have the ability to actually touch the ground there. Here I'm going to enable X and Y translation on this guy. Oh, Wakeham's doing good. You have to go off the Wacom tablet for now. Whoa. See what happens when I maintain its ability to rotate? I get some crazy rotation. So I might have turned off rotation there in order to have a better experience. But for now I can do something like that, do something like that. So bend a little backwards. Voila, step one. Okay. Oh, but they're not supposed to be bent, so maybe we'll compress this guy a little bit. Oh yeah, we'll just lengthen that leg, and we can go in and correct some things later. So I'm going to move forward, and here I'm at position 2, where my front leg bends down, and my back leg also bends in order to begin to take the weight off of the back leg. Okay. I might want to take some of my rotation off this guy now. So now let's go back in, enable the rotation, disable X and Y translation, And now I can rotate at that joint once again. But we're not actually ready to come off the ground. Oh, looks like my shin bone is no longer connected to my knee bone. But you know, little adjustments like that can work wonders. Move my toe up. You want to keep the toe, the foot from going beneath your ground plane at any point. So just do what you can. It's hard to really see my toe there. Anyway, step 2. Oh no, but I put my keyframe in the wrong place. You can, if you want to, you can cut your pose, and by right-clicking in the right pose, you can paste pose in a different place. So right-click on your keyframe or your pose if you put it in the wrong place, and then paste in the right place. So that's pretty handy, right? Now I'm going to go to my next pose, and we can see now that this front leg is straight. I'm actually going to now allow my translation. Turn off rotation, allow translation. For a minute, I'm just going to, oops. Just raise him a little bit. Now I'm going to put back on the rotation. And then you find the way that works best for you with this. Just realize that it can be a multi-step process to get to the position you want, and it's going to hopefully go smoothly. No guarantees there. Oops, that's not what I wanted to guess. I want to adjust you. Okay. And switch this back to the way I need it to move. And now the foot's going to be off the ground here. Sort of wish my leg was a little longer now. One thing that the writer of this book mentions is that the legs typically, or the feet typically, rise above the ground just enough to clear. People are generally pretty lazy, and I guess they put a lot of weight on their legs every day. Well, so this is a big shift from this position to this position. So we're now going to, let's see where we can drag to make this the most efficient. It can be, you see, without this toe, you wouldn't really have as much ease of rotating this foot. It still would work, but not quite as good. Okay, and the leg kind of, you know, as the walk goes to the passing position, you know, this leg is kind of in place, but we assume it's sort of moving back in relation to the other leg. How does that look? Okay, so we have that. That's a start. And then this foot is going to go down, 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 down. And if you want, if you're kind of okay at this point, you know, just skip to the next part of the tutorial if you want to kind of get into the issues related to putting in the background and whatnot. Okay, we're going to continue when I've built the walk cycle a little more fully and when I'm ready to put in my background.